I cannot stand that I have to have either near perfect perfection or absolute perfect perfection. Growing up, I pretty much had to figure out a lot of stuff on my own. Even though it was somewhat open for me to ask for help, I was always ridiculed in the end, resulting in me just trying to figure it out myself. That, on top of anger issues, well, it made it pretty obvious throughout the household that I was struggling with something and eventually someone would come and help me, but not because they wanted to. Dealing with that, and the majority time of me growing up, I absolutely hated asking for help, even when I absolutely needed it. Whenever someone genuinely wants to help me out, and they see that I'm struggling, they'll ask for help, and it usually makes me extremely mad. Not at them, per se, but more at myself that I couldn't figure it out sooner. This usually makes me feel pretty pathetic, and it usually happens whenever it comes across something that somebody my age would normally know how to do. But basically, I was sheltered in a way, and so a lot of the things that would make sense for somebody my age doesn't make sense to me. And so I feel rather pathetic whenever I come across something that I feel somebody my age would already know, and somebody my age or older has to come out and help me. This in turn makes me overthink my situations in an attempt to try to solve my own problem. If I'm dealing with something that maybe results in future plans, I'll come up with 100 different situations and reasons why doing so would most likely be a bad idea. Obviously, when making a choice, you do have to sacrifice something, and even with me knowing that, I still refuse to make a decision. This also makes it difficult for people to suggest me things even when I'm open for suggestions. This makes me a very difficult person, and I'm not proud to admit it. Backtracking a little bit to when I said not knowing how to do something someone my age would know how to do, whenever I do finally figure something out, be it I do some research, or something suddenly becomes very obvious to me, I get very upset whenever it somehow still falls apart. Or when nothing even shows up as to be a problem and it still falls apart. Usually this situation is whenever I'm doing something that I believe is correct and or have no reason why it would not be correct, and somehow someone comes across to me saying, hey, you're doing it incorrectly. I'm very confused. A small incidence of this being the case is given instructions, reading the instructions, and interpreting the instructions only one way the instructions can be interpreted, and somehow I did the instructions wrong. And they assumed that I was supposed to ask for help when I believe there was no reason to ask for help, especially if I've done it multiple times before. In any case, I don't like to mess up no matter what the situation is. Then again, nobody really likes to screw up anything, but I feel like nobody really understands how greatly it affects me whenever I do screw something up. Believe it or not, this was the point I was trying to make from the beginning, but realized that it was going to be too short of a video to explain. I can't stand messing up. It's the worst thing that could ever happen to me. Well, I guess maybe not the worst, but it makes me feel like absolute garbage. I strive to make everything perfect and do it right the first time, so nobody has to come back and go over what I did or see that I'm an incompetent fool and doesn't want to trust me to do the task again. Doing it right and making sure nothing is messed up is my absolute goal, but obviously that doesn't always happen. However, whenever I do make a mistake, I do not like it to be pointed out, especially when I'm very much aware that I made the mistake. A situation of this happened back when I worked at a security job. I did not have a car, nor do I have any means of transportation outside of rides. It was either my mother or my boyfriend, and every now and again, my boyfriend would be the one to drive me to work. He had a habit of sleeping on his phone sometimes, even though he hasn't done it since we've been living together. Whenever he fell asleep on his phone, he could not hear the phone ringing when I go to call him to see what's going on. Of course, this happened this particular day, and I ended up getting to work about 10-15 minutes late. This one particular supervisor, who is a rule follower to the T, happened to be there at the time I was clocking in and made it a point to tell me, hey, do you know what time you're supposed to be here? Like, I haven't been working there a whole half year before. Like, obviously I'm aware of what time I'm supposed to be at work. I didn't just wake up one day and wonder, do I have a job today? It was just infuriating, so yes, it came off a little snarky, saying that I couldn't help that traffic was being ridiculous. And he tried to threaten with a write-up when I just I just don't understand the point. If I come in all frustrated, obviously late, what difference does it make to point it out? Am I just gonna be suddenly like, oh, you know what? You're absolutely right. Let me just rewind time and come back 20 minutes earlier. So basically, if I make a mistake, I'm most likely aware of the mistake I made, and pointing it out does absolutely nothing for either party. Maybe he was just covering his behind in case anyone was watching, but I'm aware of the mistake I made. Give me a chance to fix it. And speaking of fixing it, usually whenever I make a mistake, I do anything and everything I can to fix it as soon as possible. It's already bad enough I made the mistake, and now I have to go back and fix the mistake, not necessarily before anyone notices, even though that is the goal, but because I need to actually make things right. I have this huge bit of responsibility whenever it comes to doing a task, and I hold it to the highest standard. However, whenever I do have that incident, whenever I need to fix a situation, I don't need somebody coming in and berating me and insulting me and making me feel like an idiot before I can even turn around and fix the situation, especially when I'm well equipped and able to fix the situation. Usually this situation is when I accidentally overlook something or make a tiny mistake and my misjudgment gets the best of me. And fixing the situation does not require a lot of work. This usually doesn't happen whenever I'm dealing with something I don't know how to function or don't know what I'm doing. It's usually something I already know what I'm doing and just made a small mistake. All that said, this makes me a perfectionist. Not something I'm happy to say, but unfortunately it's something that happened. I strive at nothing but making the absolute best out of my work and making sure that whatever I'm doing is perfect in the beginning. And while this could work outside of the work field, it doesn't really work very well in the work field. As I've explained in the past, those are not the only examples, by the way. Most jobs do not appreciate hard workers in the way they should. I'm not expecting to get a raise in the first 2 months of me being there. However, they tend to just see me as somebody who's an overachiever and just congratulates me with more work or has me doing work that nobody else wants to do. Unfortunately, I do not have this shut-off thought of this hard work is only dedicated to people who deserve it. Nope, I accidentally apply it to everything and everywhere I go. And you would think after time and time again I'd learn my lesson and try to pull back some, but unfortunately it doesn't. I absolutely hate it whenever I put my all into something and nobody acknowledges it. It could either be me putting my all into something and they point out something I didn't do, putting my all in something and them not acknowledging it at all, or them expecting me to do it again when I didn't have to do it the first time. Unfortunately, I cannot put this in my resume as saying, oh, I'm a hard worker, and them hiring me on the spot. Whenever it comes to job searching, that's the hardest, because that's where the biggest amount of rejection is. Most of the time it's before you can even have a chance to show them what you have. I already have no skills as it is. I don't have anything useful for the work field, hence why I want to work from home, and rather work on my own skills. I do not need to be a technician. I do not need to be a food service person. I do not need to be a retail associate or a manager. I literally just get to do whatever it is that I need to do to get my job done. But whenever it comes for the cases where I need to work for somebody, all I can promise them is how hard I'll work. It's up to them if they want to take the chance and have me work with them to find out exactly what I meant. Whenever someone does finally take their chances with me, and allows me to work with them, or on their team, or whatever the case may be, you best bet I'll work my butt off to prove to them that I am worth the time. And nothing more than anything fuels my need to work harder than when someone actually does appreciate my hard work. This current job that I'm working is absolutely hard to want to leave. Absolutely have no real reason to leave. Most people there might have the idea that I absolutely hate that job, but that's false. It's the most high morale job that I've ever worked at. Sure, there are ways to make it better, but I could not complain. Everybody there appreciates everybody's help and hard work. I am constantly reminded about how my hard work is very well appreciated, and they feel absolutely thrilled to have me on the team or show up for overtime when needed. I don't think really anyone understands how much I appreciate when someone actually acknowledges me. Having the ability to want to work harder is a blessing and a curse. More a curse than it actually is a blessing. To anyone who wants to have a hard-working employee, this sounds like a blessing in all ways. They get to have a hard-working employee who thrives off wanting to work harder and harder for just some clout. But in reality, it's more strain on me than it is on anyone else. It's more of a curse on me because of how high my expectations are for my own work. If I don't meet my own expectations, it puts me in a really bad spot in mind. I also work harder than I need to because jobs don't really appreciate how hard you work, and oftentimes they'll overshadow it with complaints about something you didn't do or not acknowledging it at all. And worse upon worse is when you don't even get the chance to show them to see how hard of a worker I really am. My mom has already told me before is that I will never be satisfied with trying to please everyone around me, but at this point it's engraved into my body and I don't know really how to pull back or stop. All I ever want to do is make me worth their time. Obviously they had no reason to actually accept my assistance and or services, but whenever they do finally open up and give me a chance, I make sure it's worth every cent. In case anyone out there is an overachiever or a hard worker, for the simple thought of appreciation or attention or whatever the case may be, I suggest don't. It's far more work to try to please people who don't really care what it is that you do, because 9 times out of 10, they will find anyone else to do the work that they don't feel like doing, and they'll just take you for granted. Hey everyone, this is Leanne Ribbentie. Thank you guys for watching this far into the video. If you enjoyed this content, be sure to like and subscribe, and check out the last episode where I discuss about how bosses can be a bit of a jerk. Also, I have one more week for this giveaway that I'm hosting on my Instagram account. Be sure to check the link in the description below for that kind of information. Anyway, see you guys next time.